Yes. So, welcome everyone. Anyone who wants to share first, go first. Chitra ji, Jyotsna ji, Badal ji, Jishnu.
Yeah.
By tradition, Chitradi, she has to do the Om Swaha.
Others also there. No, who else is there? Badal. Badal. His name is Badal.
Badal ji, yeah. Captain Badal, yeah.
No, captain. He's a captain. Okay. Namaste. Yeah. Yeah. Today I selected one story told by mother. I think that character is mother herself because I heard in one of the session by Geeta Jali. I will read that story. It is not a story, it is a real incident, of course. Yeah. She brought out that matter in the topic of anguish of desire. Actually, it is from Collected Works of Mother, volume number 7, page number 37 and 40. I will read that about someone asked her, where does desire come from? She answered for that, Buddha said that it comes from ignorance. It is more or less that it is something in the being which fancies that it needs something else in order to be satisfied. Then I will go to that incident directly. Further, she said, the Buddha has said that there is a greater joy in overcoming a desire than in satisfying it. It is an experience everybody can have and one that is truly very interesting, very interesting. Now comes that thing. There was someone who was invited. Yeah, from here. There was someone who was invited. It happened in Paris. Invited to a first night. A first night means a first performance of an opera of Mazzenettes. Am I correct in the pronunciation? Mazzenettes, huh?
No
Yeah.
idea.
It's Massenet.
Mazzenet, okay. I think I don't remember now whose it was. The subject was fine, the play was fine, and the music not displeasing. It was the first time, and this person was invited to the box of the Minister of Fine Arts, who always has a box for all the first nights at the government theatres. This Minister of Fine Arts was a simple person, an old countryside man who had not lived much in Paris, who was quite new in his ministry and took a truly childlike joy in seeing new things. Yet he was a polite man, and as he had invited a lady, he gave her the front seat and himself sat at the back. But he felt very unhappy because he could not see everything. He leaned forward like this, trying to see something without showing it too much. Now the lady who was in front noticed this. She too was very interested and was finding it very fine. And it was not that she did not like it. She liked it very much and was enjoying the show. But she, how very unhappy she saw, how very unhappy that poor minister looked, not being able to see. So quite casually, you see, she pushed back her chair, went back a little as though she was thinking of something else, and drew back so well that he came forward and could now see the whole scene. Well, this person, when she drew back and gave up all desire to see the show, was filled with a sense of inner joy, a liberation from all attachment to things, and a kind of peace, content to have done something for somebody instead of having satisfied herself, to the extent that the evening brought her infinitely greater pleasure than if she had listened to the opera. This is a true experience. It is not a little story read in a book. And it was precisely at the time this person was studying Buddhist discipline. And it was in conformity with the saying of the Buddha that she tried this experiment. Next, two paragraphs are very important. I will finish that. And truly, this was so concrete an experience, so real that 2 seconds later, you see the play, the music, the actors, the scene, the pictures, and all that were gone like absolutely secondary things, completely unimportant. While this joy of having mastered something in oneself and done something not simply selfish, this joy filled all the being with an incomparable serenity, a delightful experience. Well, it is not just an individual, personal experience. All those who want to try can have it. There is a kind of inner communion with the psychic being, which takes place when one willingly gives up a desire. Because of this, one feels a much greater joy than if he had satisfied his desire. Besides, most usually, almost without exception, when one satisfies a desire, it always leaves a kind of bitter taste somewhere. There is not one satisfied desire which does not give a kind of bitterness. As when one has eaten too sugary a sweet, it fills your mouth with bitterness. It is like that. You must try sincerely. Naturally, you must not pretend to give up desire and keep it in a corner, because then one becomes very unhappy. You must do it sincerely. Very beautiful thing, no? This one I heard in one of the sessions from Geetanjali actually. She just mentioned about it. Mother saw a Oprah dance, performance, but she sacrificed because that person couldn't see. She said she went out from the, theater actually. But here mother mentioned she was there, but she adjusted herself, no, actually. It's beautiful, really. Yeah.
And very important practically for us, because we most of the times we are just in pain because we are not able to satisfy some or the other desire. So instead of being in pain and hankering after a desire being satisfied, this is so beautiful. And mother says here,
Yeah.
because all of us talk about how to have this
Yeah.
union with the psychic, how to get in touch with the psychic. And it's so clear here that once you step back
Yeah.
from fulfilling the desire, this communion happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah. Even in some other place in the same book I read, I will bring it next week actually. She said even that renunciation of desire is not a renunciation of sins. It should come very naturally, very naturally.
Out
You
of
should not feel
understanding.
I am renouncing the desire also. That feeling also should not be there.
Absolutely.
There should be no joy, she says.
Yeah.
She said there should be no, I did this, I gave up this and feel happy.
Yeah.
It should be something that you just did and you were supposed to do it and then you were supposed to pass on. That's the way she explains it. That you should not feel I did it or I gave it up.
Yeah.
But if you practice and practice, it comes. It starts coming in small measures. Something you like, the other day I was reading something on giving. I can't find it now. And she said that you don't give of your possessions. You give something that is a part of yourself which you love. And when you give a part of yourself which you love and which you would never imagine being separated from, that is really giving, which we don't do. We give what she explains, that we give what is extra. We give what is surplus. We give money, we give things, but do we give ourselves or our time or, something that is our own? And it relates to this, that we should not take joy in it after giving.
Yeah. I think if one gets a taste of this communion with the psychic, which happens when you step back from fulfilling the desire madly, I think once you have a taste of it, then, as mother shares in the next paragraph, then fulfilling a desire will actually feel bitter. Because once you have a taste of that inner communion, when you step back from the desire, it is not possible that again with the same thing at least you are able to do, again run after madly fulfilling a desire, because that taste will stay with you, that taste of the psychic will stay with you, and it will prevent you from again falling into a trap of running after a mad desire, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a workplace regarding money, finances, anything, because these are the places where we live, and there are, we are kind of interconnected through desires. Why is that person not behaving according to my desire? So once I step back from that, hold myself within myself, like in inner poise, I see that the taste of inner poise is so beautiful that why would I want that bitterness of wanting and expecting? So it's very good to have that taste, because that is a guiding light.
Beauty of peace which comes into you, it is, eh, eh, you feel a tranquility inside.
Mhm.
And after that, you don't want the thing, you don't know why you desired it.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
It
It appears
seems useless.
childish.
Seems useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
क्या जरूरत थी इसकी? I don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
when Mother was reading Dhammapada, no,
Yeah.
the Buddhist book, in a couple of instances she has written where Lord Buddha says that, this world is full of wants and all, but this world is not something to cherish living in, and it should be given up. And they say that her thinking was influenced so strongly by Dhammapada when she was reading that she started to incorporate it in her teachings to us.
Mm.
That too, how simple she is, no? Very, I mean, as if she is practicing Buddhist discipline. She's telling, I mean, not even mentioning about herself. She's telling the story as if it happened to somebody else, no? Actually, how
Yeah.
simple and humble. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful it is, really. That humility is beautiful in her.
Yeah. I think this is also, desire is like like a black cloud that comes on our blue sky of contentment. And
Correct.
it says that if you fulfill me, then you will be happy. So it lingers the fulfillment in future. Once this person behaves according to your wishes and demands, then you will be happy. So now you cannot be happy. So it's like a dark cloud that obscures the ever present happiness of our true essence. And Mother shares, and that dark cloud is nothing but this, can be said that it's the dark cloud of ignorance, that once I fulfill it, this is my ignorance, that I think that once I fulfill it, only then I can be happy. And here in the first paragraph, the Buddha said that it comes from ignorance. It is more, and what is ignorance? In this context, we can say that ignorance is thinking that if I do something or the other thing, I will be happy. This is the ignorance. Not knowing that in essence, I am joy and happiness. So I don't need anything for arriving at happiness. So this, it is more or less that it is something in the being which fancies that it needs something, the beggar in us, the ego tendency in us, it fancies that it needs something else in order to be satisfied. And the proof that it is ignorance is that when one has satisfied it, one no longer cares for it. We see that one desire fulfilled, doesn't matter, we take it for granted, and the other one comes, the other one comes, the other so that's the proof. Mother says that it's just ignorance, it's nothing really there, nothing really there, that yes, once I fulfill it, I will be content. We have seen it so many times in our lives, all of us, that no matter infinite number of times you fulfill a desire, you still remain a beggar, you still remain a beggar. So why to be a slave to the beggar then? That is the question. Yeah.
Monica ji, I found the quote which Didi was telling about. To the divine, to give to the divine what one has in excess is not an offering. Whereas the effect of spiritual realization will be to project you outside all creation, outside time and space. There is no joy more perfect than to give oneself totally to that which is greater than oneself.
Let me just share the screen for what Jishnuji was sharing.
Yeah, if you...
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, just a second. Is it this one, Jishnuji?
I think the one above that, just one sec, tell you.
There is no joy more perfect than to give oneself totally
Exactly.
that which is greater than oneself. This is what you read, right?
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Mother,
Basically, it starts, it starts from two sentences before.
Okay.
To the divine, you are worth no more than what you have given him. To give to the divine what one has in excess is not an offering.
Yeah.
And then this thing starts, what you have found out.
Okay.
She explains it in very layman terms. I read it, I think, in Sunlit Path before sleeping. So then it has udod. But it is so beautiful, that all our lives, what we thought as giving and what actually giving is very different.
Yeah.
And I am trying in my small measures to try to give of myself. And believe me, a kind of calm comes in you.
Yeah. So I think most of our pain and misery and suffering in life, which comes from either entangled relationships, attachments, obviously, because where there is suffering, there is attachment, and we all go through that. So I was feeling that these soft spots or weak spots that I have in my life, which give me pain, which become a source of my suffering, I have to use that pain in order to completely give this life to the divine, because we see that there is no end to that suffering if I do not offer myself to the divine. So I personally feel through my own experiences at least that abhi tak to aisa lagta hai that all the suffering experiences, all the painful experiences, they especially have the power that they can lead me, like they can open a window to the divine in me. Otherwise, I don't bother much about the divinity and self giving to the divine. But when I am struggling so much in my relationships and I'm entangled and I want a relief, and then in the process, if I land up on this path of yoga, I see that there is no other path to living a life beautifully if we do not use suffering as a way of, okay, I am tired of asking, now I just give myself to you, I just give myself to you. So I think if we can, if this can uh, turn us to divine, then it's still a cheap bargain, I would say. Suffering and pain is a cheap bargain if it has done its work and turned us to the divine. Because usually hunky dory life, we don't bother to turn towards the divine and offer our life to the divine. Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that our elders tell us, when a younger person takes towards yoga or little bit what you call spirituality and towards the religious path, ये कहीं से ना मार खा के आया होगा. Means ये दुखियारा है इसने, he must have got either a verbal or a mental or a physical beating from somewhere, and now so he's or he's sort of dissatisfied in a love affair, And so he is turned towards God. But don't worry, he'll forget soon enough. And half the people anyway forget because they use God as a temporary
Getting
solace.
them married, no, getting them married is a great solution for that. That is a, I mean, ordinary way of life is like that, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I had lot of
तो मार
experience
खाया
in
होगा.
that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
pain does bring about, it does bring about a turning.
Yeah.
And if you use it to your advantage to advance, you advance fast.
Yeah.
But if you don't use it and you
So,
go back
yeah.
after it has fulfilled you, you just turn around. You can, and the which half I think of the people do. That हाँ मैंने भी उस टाइम भगवान को बहुत याद किया, अब मेरे पास सब कुछ है.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Lose,
अब
yeah.
ठीक है यार, अब जब बुढ़ापा होगा तब करेंगे.
Yeah, we lose an opportunity. Yes.
Yeah, we lose a very good opportunity.
I think let's go through this paragraph a little, these 3 lines. There is no joy more perfect than to give oneself totally to that which is greater than oneself. You know, it's almost like a kind of a selflessness that may come in life. God, supreme origin, divine presence, absolute truth. It doesn't matter what name we give him or what aspect we most easily approach him through. To forget oneself totally in an integral consecration is the surest path towards realization. So just imagine, a wave from an ocean which is thinking so far that I am a separate wave and the ocean is separate. It just crashes back, gives itself back to the ocean. It says that so far I was suffering owing to the fact that I was thinking that I am separate, and now I don't want anything else but to merge back in you, to give myself back in you. I think that would be the path of surrender, ego going back, merging back, surrendering itself to the divine. And what is divine for us, I would say, uh, as mother says, no matter, doesn't matter how we approach him and what way we use. I think to take a stand for truth rather than our tendencies, rather than standing with the behavior, my patterns, my thinking, to stand a bit away from them. And as we were talking in Savitri, with discernment, live our life. I know that it's very difficult. We fail a lot of times. Tendencies are at their full swing and we fail miserably. But then the thing is that no matter how many times we fail, we just have to rise up again, dust off our pants, and stand with the truth back again. Discernment back again. So yeah, this is how I would, see standing with truth. Yes, Jishnuji, you want to share?
So yeah, the moment you said this, I mean, one quote. I was just scanning this, looking from within, and this quote came. The moment you concluded your sentence, and this is a quote from Sri Aurobindo. The power needed in yoga is the power to go through effort, difficulty, or trouble without getting fatigued, depressed, discouraged, or impatient, and without breaking off the effort or giving up one's aim or resolution. I'll read again, maybe. The power needed in yoga is the power to go through effort, difficulty, or trouble without getting fatigued, depressed, discouraged, or impatient, and without breaking off the effort or giving up one's aim or resolution.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So many times we are just, I feel at least, where, we fail. I see myself fail a number of times, and mother has warned us against shame and guilt and despair. and saying that, falling into this trap that I am unfit for yoga, and maybe I should not be traveling this path. But I have a feeling that once I have chosen the path, if there is a central surrender that has happened, for me it becomes a choiceless path. You don't have the capacity that you can take a U-turn and live that life again at an ordinary level. You cannot do that. So again, as Jishnuji was sharing, the only way is to just keep up the effort, and no matter how many times we fail, just be very okay with the failing and yet use every failure for a greater rise, as Ish said in Savitri. Use every failure for a greater rise. Yeah.
Very true, Monica. Actually, yeah, I cried to mother once. Why did you enter into my life? I cried like that actually. Because I can't go back. I can't follow also. So what to do? So I asked.
Yeah.
But truly speaking, no, after all these sessions, really I felt now nothing. I mean, those things are very funny. Now it seems to me actually.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I became very, I mean, mother granted me that firmness now actually. Yeah. It's all grace. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Mm.
So what Chitra is saying is actually very beautiful. Basically, what she is saying is, as mother entered, and mother herself has said, the first once you enter yoga, you find life very difficult because you see misery, or you find yourself miserable as well as others miserable. I mean, we normally find others miserable, but we find ourselves miserable as well. And second thing is, once you find that, you understand that so much work to be done. And I will share one incident. This is about mother's own life. I read it in Mother's Chronicles. Mother was also, I mean, mother was also young at some point of time. And as she said, when she was staying in Paris after her marriage in an apartment, and the people, her neighbors, they were Christians. I mean, I forgot which sect, but they were believers, and they were very happy with their faith and belief. And we know that mother, even from her very childhood, she did not have much faith in the traditional religion. She wanted divine, she wanted the God, but she wanted something else. And she knew that she has a task to do. So she said, as she was brushing her hair, it came to her that even I could have been simple as my neighbors, then my life would have been so easy. I would have been so satisfied in my little faith, then my life would have been easy. And she said, immediately my inner answer also came, lazy bones. You want to be lazy. So even mother herself had this question to herself, so what we are talking about ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Even in Savitri, when Savitri gave up, actually, why should I bother? Why should I fight with death god? Actually, completely she gave up. Why thou came? Then that inner voice told her, actually, find out thyself. Why thou camest? Yeah, beautiful voice. Again and again, I will read
Yeah.
as if it is
Beautiful.
for
Oh
myself.
soul,
Yeah.
remember why thou came.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I want
Find
to
out.
add something. Savitri was totally Greek and Latin for me just an year ago. Now also it's Greek and Latin, but still, it was, I could not approach it at all. And I was going through a very intense phase in my life, and deep pain, a lot of emotional suffering. And exactly this question was brimming inside me, that why on earth this pain, this person had to come in my life, why bring so much of pain? And something immediately, I just, because I was already in touch through somebody else with Savitri, and what happened, that my eyes fell on this paragraphs, Chitraji, that you are sharing.
Yeah.
That this inner voice comes and says that go in the depth of your being and search, unite with your soul. And something in me absolutely kind of tranquilized, came to rest, that yes, this pain has come because there is work to be done. And then it connected me with the pain and suffering course. Then it connected me to Savitri, and the life kind of opened up after that intense phase. So yeah, absolutely beautiful.
You will find when you are reading or when you're interacting with somebody that suddenly a flash comes to you and it says, this is what you were searching. This is what you wanted. But I didn't know. And why has it come now? And actually, a simple thing like holding a book which you hold every day. And if you're in a real kashmakash in life and you just open it, within that page, your answer will come.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that is the power of the divine that does it. It's not fluke because it cannot happen a million times.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Though we feel a little loony that how did it happen, but it does happen.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, even mother herself said about this actually.
exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah, you concentrate and place a thin knife in between some pages and open it, you will get an answer. Yeah.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
herself said, even in that site, no, Sri Aurobindo Society website, it is there. They put a space there. If you go and concentrate and click that space, thinking about your problem, you will get some answer there
Beautiful,
actually.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. So many times I got appropriate answer there
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I
It is
do
in
the
Sri
same
Aurobindo's.
night every night, every time when there is something that you have to think beyond normal mechanical level, you just open. It will come.
I remember there's this line in Savitri, Chitraji, you may remember this one, where there, no matter how inarticulate the expression is, the call is answered. So every inarticulate call gets answered. Just the call has to be there. Once the yearning is there, no matter how perfect, non-perfect, doesn't matter. Yeah. So
Like I was having this query about giving since quite a while in this COVID times, a question came that how do I help? I want to help, but how do I help? And yesterday I read this whole thing. And it was so beautiful and it was so well defined that actually you can do if you want to do. And yesterday itself, there was a person who reached out who was terribly sick and in Delhi and required help. And you could actually give your time and your resources and um, uh, help
Yeah,
somebody.
now it is for me actually. I am going to ask you now. Actually, my brother got COVID. Now he's fine. His daughter, she's 20 years old. She has got severe throat pain. She could not even eat properly and drink water also properly. The fever is subsided. From her father, she got now. It is also COVID actually. But the thing is, that swallowing became very difficult, it seems. What to do about it?
Actually, only mechanical means will help. One is saltwater gargles. Second is
That
KNNO4 gargles. Potassium
okay.
permanganate.
Okay.
1 still in 1 glass of warm water every
Okay.
1 hour.
Potassium permanganate. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
every
Okay.
1 hour,
Okay.
alternated with salt water gargles every
Okay.
1 hour.
Okay.
In about
Salt water she is not doing now because she feels it is really burning.
uh, you give
Yeah.
potassium permanganate,
Okay. Okay.
and that will sort of it kind of coats and forms a layer of total antisepsis. And
Okay.
usually this severe throat pain disappears in 24 to 36 hours, say
Okay.
48 hours.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then other symptoms take over.
Yeah.
The time to be very cautious and alert is day 6 to day 11.
Okay. Okay.
If she clears that, then
Okay.
till 21 days, maintain whatever you are doing.
Okay.
And you message me, Chitraji. I will
Yeah.
help you on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
Yeah, I'll message you. Thank you very much. Sorry to, bring out this. Since you told, I immediately asked actually.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, Monica.
I think it would be helpful for all of us if needed. No need to be sorry. Yeah.
Yesterday it was going on here actually. I am praying for it because she's a small girl, 20 years teenage girl. She couldn't tolerate the pain. She's shouting like anything, it seems. So immediately I asked, yeah.
Actually, in normal circumstances, aspirin gargles do help. Ecosprin gargles do help. But in this condition, we cannot use aspirin because it is leading to DIC and bleeding disorders. And so we cannot use aspirin, only paracetamol.
Yeah, you message. I will send the message actually. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I will answer you anytime. No
Yeah.
problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
So anyone, anything to share? Badalji, if you have anything to share today, anything that you are reading, going through. Last time you had shared a beautiful book with us, Integral Yoga, I believe. Yeah. So if there is anything you have today.
Okay. I was reading one stories told by mother. This is about
Okay.
mother discovers the Gita. That is Bhagavad Gita. Because we have seen that even Aravinda also has it in the jail, when he was in the jail, he had a lot of not dreams actually, the realization about the God, realization about the Krishna basically. So the mother writes that I said that between the age of 18 and 20, I had attained a conscious and constant union with the divine presence, and that I had done it all alone, with absolutely nobody to help me, not even books. You understand? When I found one, there came to my hands a little later Vivekananda's Raja Yoga. It seemed to me so wonderful a thing, that someone could explain something to me. This made me gain in a few months what would have perhaps taken me years to do. I met a man, I was perhaps 21 then, I think, either 20 or 21. I met a man who was an Indian who came from here and spoke to me about the Gita. There was a translation, which, by the way, was quite bad, and he advised me to read it and gave me the key, his key. It was his key. He told me, read the Gita, the translation of the Gita, which is not up to much, but still, that is the only one in French. At the time, I would not have been able to understand anything in any other language. Besides, the English translations were as bad, and I did not have. Sri Aurobindo had not yet written his. He said, read the Gita and take Krishna as the symbol of immanent God, the inner Godhead. This was all that he told me. He said to me, read it with that, the knowledge that Krishna represents the immanent God in the Gita, the God who is within you. Well, in 1 month, the whole work was done. Now you just see, you have been here since your very childhood. Some of you, everything has been explained to you. The whole work has almost been chewed up for you. You have been not only with words, but with psychic aids, with all kinds of, in all possible ways. You have been put on path to this inner discovery, and still you let yourselves alive like that. It will come once it comes. If you think about it all, it at all. There then, but this does not at all discourage me. Why? I find it quite amusing. So this Bhagavad Gita, actually, many great people, personalities, they had explained in different ways actually. And I started reading from the childhood, but I find meaning every time something different, new type of meaning comes up in Bhagavad Gita. Is that total that Raja Yoga where Swami Vivekananda has given, even uh, the life divine. I was reading. There are so many so many slokas of Bhagavad Gita has been quoted in the chapter first when the chapter starting. Then after that, so that theme, central theme remains, and it was been explained. So it is a great this thing. Even mother also, I just saw the mother discovers the Gita. So Bhagavad Gita she has explained. The translation work, of course, it becomes difficult because as is mentioned here, uh, but the original, like in Sanskrit, so we have to have some sort of expertise in understanding Sanskrit. Then it becomes easy to grasp or explain and translate in our life probably.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing, Badalji. You know, this paragraph which you stopped at, I think this is also very beautiful. Only there are other things which I find more serious, and that is when you try to deceive yourself. That indeed is not nice. You must not take one thing for another. As it is said, you must call a spade, and human instinct, and not speak to me about divine things when they are purely human. You must not pretend to have supramental experiences when you are living in an altogether ordinary consciousness. I think this is very grounding in nature, because all that we have an experience of mostly is a space of, you know, tendencies playing out themselves. And I feel that it's good to be grounded. You know, when I see my tendencies playing out, it grounds me. You know, it tells me that the theory still needs to be implemented and there is a long way to go still. So it keeps us on the path further. Yeah. Yeah.
Even the essays on Bhagavad Gita by Sri Aurobindo, no, it actually it contains whole of Bhagavad Gita and also further, because he brought the integral yoga, no, in that it is also very beautiful, the essays on Bhagavad. Because I read it in Tamil first translation, and then I came to English, so I could understand very well that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. I think this is also very nice, this little paragraph here.
Mm.
First time I knew, and nobody told me this, I knew it by experience. The first time I knew that there was a discovery to make. I think this we keep on forgetting. You know, we other things occupy so much a space that we forget that there is so much to be done. As Jishnuji was also sharing, that there was a discovery to make within me. Well, that was the most important thing. This had to be put before everything. And when I found, as I said, a book, a man, just to give me a little indication to tell me, here you are, if you do this, the path will open before you. I rushed headlong like a cyclone, and nothing could have stopped me. So, if this can become all occupying for us, that yes, you know, on this path of this discovery, I think one cannot be stopped then. No experiences, no challenges, no darkness, everything will become a raw material for this discovery. This is very powerful. So nice. And then mother is asking, who asked me just now what you should do? Well, this is what you should do, my child. I have just told you. Yeah. it's such an ocean of, literature, enough for a lifetime and a
It is a
lifetime.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
Lifetime is not needed.
Not one
Maybe I
lifetime.
used, yeah. Maybe I used to think like that. Okay, even if there are so many births, I will be happy. I mean, by thy grace, if I am in the path, I mean, we can read a lot and we can, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So anything from anyone other? Anything to share? Nandini, Jishnuji, Swapna, Swati, Snehi, anything that you would like to share? Mm.
One quote I wanted to share,
Yeah.
mothers. He who wants to advance on the path of perfection must never complain about the difficulties on the way, for each is an opportunity for a new progress. To complain is a sign of weakness and insincerity.
Yeah, this is sort of mantra for me. Yes, correct. To complain is insincerity. Yeah.
So I think those of us who want to go through it again, here the first paragraph is what Jishnuji just read. He who wants to advance on the path of perfection must never complain about the difficulties on the way, for each is an opportunity for a progress. To complain is a sign of weakness and insincerity. I think we all have times of our weakness where we may complain. At least I remember myself complaining, why did you bring that thing into my life? Although I could also see the uh, kind of, the positivity or gratitude that it opened up something new for me. And yet I could also see that at times I fell a prey to this weakness in me, crying out that why that person had to come to my life. Although I could see parallelly that if that event would not happen, so much of opening would not have been there. So yes, I think I can relate with this insincerity and weakness. Yeah.
I think we will, in course of time, we will realize even that compliance, no, we will realize actually from that adverse circumstances, we have progressed so much, no, we are progressing. That we will realize, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, the ego tendency or the beggar in us who complains and complains and complains all the time. I think it's parallelly there. So I saw in myself that there was also a gratitude and understanding that yes, this difficulty brought a lot of good into my life. And at the same times, when I felt weak at certain moments, I could see that although the gratitude was also at the back there, but I could not stop myself from falling into this complaint mode that why did this have to happen, and the other day, the next day after that complaint, I realized no, there is no need for complaining, because it would not have opened so much for me if not for that phase of my life, or whatever. So yeah, I think it whenever we kind of give in to this weakness, the beggar is ready to rise up and complain and open his mouth. Yeah.
Monica, if nobody is reading, there is one thing I wanted you to open up, which is on surrender and sacrifice. Is not surrender the same as sacrifice? Many people, we often confuse them. Yeah. Yeah. In our yoga. Yeah. You read it.
No, you go ahead, please, Jyotsna. Please go ahead.
In our yoga, there is no room for sacrifice, but everything depends on the meaning you put on the word. In its pure sense, it means a consecrated giving, a making sacred to the divine. But in the significance that it now bears, sacrifice is something that works for destruction. It carries about it an atmosphere of negation. This kind of sacrifice is not fulfillment, it is a deprivation, a self immolation. It is your possibilities that you sacrifice, the possibilities and the realizations of your personality, from the most material to the highest spiritual range. Sacrifice diminishes your being. If physically you sacrifice your life, your body, you give up all your possibilities on the material plane, you have done with the achievements of your earthly existence. In the same way, you can morally sacrifice your life. You give up the amplitude and free fulfillment of your inner existence. There is always in this idea of self immolation a sense of forcing, a constriction, and imposed self denial. This is an ideal that does not give room for the soul's deeper and larger spontaneities. By surrender, we mean not this, but a spontaneous self giving, a giving of all yourself to the divine, to a greater consciousness of which you are a part. Surrender will not diminish but increase. It will not lessen or weaken or destroy your personality. It will fortify and aggrandize it. Surrender means a total giving with all the delight of giving, and there is no sense of sacrifice in it. If you have the slightest feeling that you are making a sacrifice, then it is no longer surrender. For it means that you reserve yourself or that you are trying to give with grudging or with pain and effort and have not the joy of the gift, perhaps not even the feeling that you are giving. When you do anything with the sense of a compression of your being, be sure that you are doing it in the wrong way. True surrender enlarges you. It increases your capacity. It gives you a greater measure in quality and in quantity, which you could not have had by yourself. This new greater measure of quality and quantity is different from anything you could attain before. You enter into another world, into a wideness which you could not have entered if you did not surrender. It is as when a drop of water falls into the sea. If it's still kept there, its separate identity, it would remain a little drop of water and nothing more. A little drop crushed by all the immensity around because it has not surrendered. But surrendering, it unites with the sea and participates in the nature and power and vastness of the whole sea.
This is very beautiful, no? Participates in the nature and power and vastness of the whole sea. Yeah, it's very beautiful.
I used to always be confused in these two terms. And I often, very long ago, used to equate them as the same. To sacrifice, oh, I've surrendered this. But when I learned the meaning of surrender, I realized that it was so much more enriching. It enlarges you. Then what was I doing with all those things I thought as sacrifice? But you have to keep reminding yourself. It's very tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Even to children, if we say we sacrifice our life for your sake, no, it become meaningless nowadays. Yeah, really, that word is not, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
It's almost like hypocrisy also, that
yeah,
saying that I am sacrificing your life,
yeah.
my life for you, because if
It's,
I am not sacrificing it for any other children, I am
yeah,
my own, it's actually my own children that I am doing the work for. It's not a sacrifice.
it's totally meaningless. Yeah, totally meaningless.
Anything else, anyone?
Nandini, bolo.
नहीं आज बस सुन रहे हैं. There's so, I mean, yeah. I think that's what, no, it's like it's this, there's plenty. I mean, currently, since there's such a storm happening all over Bangalore and I think all over the country, that these are words that you just like how I think in this one of the paragraph below, right? You cling to the divine, right? Just slightly below, I think there is no ambiguity or vagueness. And if a small human mind stands in front of the divine universal mind and clings to its separateness, it will remain what it is, a small bounded thing, incapable of knowing the nature of the higher reality or even of coming in contact with it. The two continue to stand apart and are qualitatively as well as quantitatively quite different from each other. But if the little human mind surrenders, as it will be merged in the divine universal mind, it will be one in quality and quantity with it, losing nothing but its own limitations and deformations. It will receive from its vastness and luminous clearness. So that's, I think, the words of the mother, I think this is where you, like, it's just, at least for me, you just cling on to these words and you hope to work towards it, because sometimes in your daily activities, the mind takes over on so many other aspects that you tend to sort of, go a little bit haywire. But when you come back here, that's the only possibility of, moving ahead.
Absolutely.
That is, in my own,
Nandini, when you were sharing, a kind of a visual came to me, that as you said, that the storm is there all over, all around, and as if these words are, as if you are clinging to the feet of the mother, not to be
Mhm.
blown away by the storm that is there. Absolutely. And then as time changes, everything changes. It's just a dark cloud which will pass very soon.
Right, yeah. Because when you had also sent that little the post on the group the other day, right, with regard to the when she says about illness, right, and how yes, we can all do everything, but to sit quietly and actually be in the, to send that, that thought that also takes, that is also a sadhana from your own end. I mean, sometimes, yeah, you are not, it is not possible, like Jyotsna ji said, right, to help all the time. Sometimes you are left like that. You think that you're feeling helpless, but it's not there. Then you have to bring your mind back to it and sort of sit in that calm space and say, okay, from here, what can I do? And I think, yeah, that's
Absolutely, absolutely.
because you are suddenly in this thing, that sometimes, I mean, at least for me, the experience has been that you're just a layman at that time. You become this ordinary, when she says, right, the ordinary consciousness that you're trying to, you are in. And to reach that, because to attain that divine, this thing, sometimes it becomes very difficult. At least, you're not thinking about it immediately, right? Because the storm around you is so huge that you tend to forget the divine, but then you again come back to it, and then you again reach out. And these are, I think, the little tests, or at least your own checkpoints that you have to do.
Somehow I feel that we have taken our human life and movements that I can see, hear, I can taste. It is all taken so much for granted that you are right. Only when we are absolutely shattered, feeling broken and helpless, do we actually turn or take care to turn towards the divine
Yeah,
hope for us.
yeah.
Just like Sri Aurobindo talks about human nature being dog's tail.
So I was watching last week. I mean, I don't know why he came into my mind. I'm sure you must have seen him, Ankit Chadda. And I suddenly remembered him, it was so strange because I'd seen his performance in Bangalore, and I think he had just then the next following month or following 2 months or about a couple of months later, he was in Pune, and he passed on. And then, yeah. And I can't remember that Doha, but if you can remind me the part where he says, where he talks about Hari. I don't know what that Doha is, but if you do, you know that Doha?
Any context? What does he say about Hari?
Hari, the Doha is, I think, ke Hari ko na paya, ya Hari ko na dekha, something like that.
I'll have
Yeah. So it's very so when I watched him, one of our building supervisor was down with COVID, and unfortunately he moved on, he passed on, and his name happened to be Hari Krishna. And it was so strange because in the building, like hum to Hari 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 kar rahe, to mere man mein ye aaya ki hum Bhagwan ka naam, we also take the name of the Lord, right, at that. And it so happened that now to replace him, there is somebody called Vivek who has come. And it was like, so your Vivek ko tum jagao abhi, kyunki it is time for us, for humankind, whatever. I mean, I think that's where we are, hopefully those steps are coming. So that's where, so I think instances even in our everyday lives, they sort of wake you up so quickly, that for every passing moment there is gratefulness, there is that, you look forward to those moments and say that the divine is there and you're grateful for that's all. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so I think we can maybe end here. If not anything, if anyone wants to share, Swapna, Jishnuji, Snehi, I don't know if you want to share anything, or we can. Yeah, yes, Swapna. Yeah.
I've never done something like this, but I'm appreciating this community, so thank you. And I wonder if I can ask everyone to just say a little prayer, because I know the whole world is suffering, and I have a personal set of challenges, and it's feeling, it's feeling really big. So if you could take just a few minutes. I hear there's a power to something like that, and I've never tried it or asked it, but thank you. And thanks for holding these, Monica. I appreciate it. And everyone's contribution very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Swapna. So let's kind of take a pause.
Monica, a few lines from Savitri. For this situation, it is very. Yesterday, when I heard about that COVID attack on my brother and his daughter, no, I really took Savitri and sat with the Savitri.
Yeah.
I got these lines, the descent into night, actually. See this line, this very much suitable. Life clung to its seat with cords of gasping breath. It is in page number 218. Life clung to its seat with cords of gasping breath. And all that helps the spirit in its course. And then I'll go to, skip some lines, I'll go to the end actually. But he endured, Ashwapati, stilled the vain terror, bore the smothering coils of agony and affright. Then peace returned and the soul's sovereign gaze. To the blank horror, a calm light replied, immutable, undying, and unborn. Mighty and mute, the Godhead in him woke and faced the pain and danger of the world. He mastered the tides of nature with a look. He met with his bare spirit naked hell. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitraji. So I'll just stop the recording here, and we can just kind of switch off the cameras and stay here together for 1 minute, and then I will end the meeting.